Hi guys, so I wanted to do a little live from Miami right now. It's actually cold in Florida right now, which is crazy. It's 69 degrees, but there's always this weird anxiety that I get when I'm doing a live in public for some reason. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's staring at me, but no one's looking. I wanted to do a live and I wanted to really just have a conversation about something that I've been experiencing, and I was actually talking about it on my stories, and I wanted to come on here and talk about it because I think it's really, really important. I was basically speaking about, and I've been thinking about this all the time, and thankfully God is so good that sometimes what you're battling and what you're experiencing, He will, let me see if I can put this down here. He'll literally like show you that other people are also experiencing it as well. And for a while I really thought my hair looks crazy right now. For a while I like this like little corner, but for a while like you will think that you're the only one that's battling it, and you're the only one that's basically experiencing what you're experiencing. But in reality, lots of other people are going through the same thing that you're going through. Lots of other people are battling the same battles that you're fighting. And for me, my battle was the battle of fear, and the battle of just having anxiety about speaking about my faith and being bold about my faith. And for a very long time, I kept my voice quiet, and I let fear choke me and make me silent and not speak about what God was doing in my life, because I was so afraid of being mocked. I was so afraid of being talked about, of, being criticized. Or when you start speaking boldly about what God is doing in your life and about the things He's freed you from, and you represent Christ. Like, I was so afraid to even simply say the name Jesus, to simply say Jesus to me on my Instagram, on my social media, to talk about it with people. I would be terrified because outside of my my Christian bubble, outside of my God bubble of people that I know are also believers, there's a whole world out there that persecutes people who believe in God, right? When you say the name Jesus, that comes with a lot of persecution and a lot of accusation. Hey, that comes with a lot of accusation, and it comes with a lot of like attack. And so for a very long time, I was like, oh, like I'm gonna stay quiet. I'm not gonna say anything. And when I would talk about God, and I would come on my Instagram and I would make a video, it's so cold right now, y'all. Like, it's crazy. I'm literally about to like leave. But when I would come on Instagram and I would make a video and I would talk about God, I would, like, the night after, or like even at nighttime specifically after I would post it, I would get this anxiety and I'd want to delete it. Like, I would want to delete the video. And I'm like, why is it that I don't want to delete any video about talking about the business, talking about what it is that I'm doing on social media, monetizing my Instagram, or, anything that has to do with the business? Why don't I want to delete any of those videos? Why do I want to delete the videos where I'm talking about God and I'm talking about Jesus and I'm talking about what God has done in my life? Why? Why is there this attack? Why is there this mental battle that I'm going through whenever I talk about God? Why? Why is there this anxiety? And so, funny thing is that I'm actually reading this book called Battlefield of the Mind, Winning the Battle in Your Mind, and it is so powerful. It's about recognizing damaging thoughts, stopping them from influencing your life, armoring yourself with the Word of God, praise, prayer, and other powerful spiritual weapons, overcoming mental strongholds that the enemy uses in order to literally just put fear inside of you. Like, so many times we don't realize that most of the fears that we're struggling with are what is holding us back from stepping into our purpose and living living the life that God has ordained for you. So many things in your life you have not been able to step into. You have not been able to live and step into your calling because of fear. Because you're so obsessed with your comfort zone. Because we're so obsessed with wanting to feel comfortable, wanting to feel safe and secure. Security has become your God. Fear has become your God. Fear was my God for a very long time. I would talk about Jesus, and I would talk about God, and I would talk about all the things that God is doing in my life and everything. But you know what? At the end of the day, I was so afraid to speak about God and to say the name Jesus and to say what God was doing in my life that I would literally stay quiet. I would stay quiet, and I felt like literally sometimes the enemy literally like chokes you spiritually and mentally. Tell me that you guys haven't been through something where there's something going on and you literally like bite your tongue. Like you don't even want to speak. You don't even want to say anything because you feel like there's something holding back your tongue. That's literally fear. Fear is choking you from using your voice. Fear is literally choking us from using our voices and speaking out. And the point of this video is that I think that we have to step into our boldness. Last night, I went to one of my friends. She was like doing a sermon, and it was so powerful. And like, to me, it just shows me like the beautiful work of God and his presence and the way that he works through people and things when we least expect it. But what I was battling this week was literally just courage. I felt like I didn't have enough courage. Like I felt like I was just literally being choked out by fear and anxiety and stress and worry and just going through all of these different things. And I felt like all the steps forward that I took, the steps forward of finally stepping into like my purpose and, you know, being fearless and being courageous and being bold and, you know, doing all the things that I was like, oh, like I'm finally free. Then out of nowhere, I felt this huge setback. Like the past week where I started being intimidated by fear. I started stepping back into my old habits and my old mindsets of fear and anxiety and things that I wasn't afraid to do before. I started becoming afraid to do. Like I started being very quiet. I started like filtering myself, and I felt like I was shrinking myself. Like I was trying to not be too much. Because for a long time, that's something that I battled was I don't want to be too much. I felt like, you know, like God sometimes puts things in your heart for you to do, for you to speak about, for you to like open your mouth about, for you to spread the good news, to spread and to share and to do all these things. But then there's this voice inside of you, the voice of the enemy that says, you're going to be too much. Or sometimes the enemy will literally use somebody to tell you that. When you start stepping into your gifts and into your calling and you start being bold and you start being obedient to the voice of God, there's going to be people who are going to come against you, but you have to know that it's not people. It's the war between principalities of darkness that the enemy will use people to try to stomp you down and quiet your voice. Because, for example, do you imagine you start doing what God calls you to do? You start becoming bold. You start becoming confident, Godfidence, and you start really stepping into your power. You know that that's going to make people uncomfortable. And by people, I mean the enemy. The enemy, the power of darkness, the powers of darkness. And let me tell you, there's a war going on. Spiritually, there's a war going on between negative and positive energies. There's a war between good and evil going on all the time. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, that's what's going on. Why do you think people are killing people? Why do you think there's violence everywhere? Why do you think the world is getting darker and darker and darker? The darker it gets, the closer you are to the light. And so the enemy is going to start using people. When you start stepping into your power, when you start knowing who God is, when you start seeking him diligently, you start hearing his voice, you start really seeing things clearer. He's going to use people to throw you off the path and to quiet your voice, to choke you out, to make you step into fear. When you start doing what God is calling you to do, and you'll see one comment that says, what are you doing? You're being too much. You sound ridiculous. Stop doing what you're doing. You're never going to be successful. Who do you think you are? This is literally the enemy speaking through people. How do you recognize the voice of the enemy? You recognize the voice of the enemy when you recognize the voice of God. And how do you recognize the voice of God? The voice of God makes you feel good. It empowers you. It uplifts you. It fills you with hope. It fills you with confidence. It fills you with just joy and overflowing, like, just confidence. The voice of the enemy pushes you down. It discourages you. It makes you depressed. It makes you lose hope. It makes you see yourself as unworthy. It makes you insecure. It gives you low self-esteem. It makes you think that you're small and that you're not capable and that you don't have the strength and you don't have the success and you'll never be successful and that you don't. That's the voice of the enemy. So if you are experiencing this, if you're experiencing fear and simply like stepping into your calling and stepping in, when I say calling, I'm saying whatever it is that you're gifted at, whatever it is that you feel that you want to do that's going to help other people, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary. It doesn't have to be like, oh, like I want to change the world, you know, it doesn't have to be that. But if whatever it is that you have in your heart that you want to do, if the end result is helping people in some way or another, if it's helping people get out of darkness, get out of depression, get out of bad financial situations, you want to give people the opportunity, you want to help people, and you start getting discouraged because people are putting you down or you're putting yourself down, you have to recognize that that is the voice of the enemy. That is the voice of fear. The voice of fear is literally the war that you are raging. The war that you are fighting is fear. Everything is fear. Everything is fear. Everything. The root of literally evil is fear. Fear of lack. Fear of not being enough. Fear of there not being enough. Fear of literally just everything. Fear that I'm not enough. Fear that I don't have enough. Fear that I'll never be this. I'll never be that. Fear that I don't have what I want. Everything it's fear versus love. And love is really hard to hold on to when you've made fear your God. So I want that if you're watching this as the sun goes down, you can't really see it. I should probably get up. I should probably get up. But yeah, the sun is going down over there. I always think it's a very spiritual. It's a very spiritual moment. Like, I think the most like sacred hours of the day are like sunrise and sundown, because it just feels like there's this calming kind of like atmosphere. And if I lived here, I would basically come to the beach every single sundown. But as the sun is going down, I want you guys to think about, who have you made your God? Have you made fear your God? Have you made anxiety your God? Have you made the voices in your head your God? Have you made those thoughts and those fears and those anxieties and those things that have been holding you back from stepping into your purpose your God? Who is your God? Have you made yourself your God? Because that's another thing. We also worship ourselves way too much. Worship means anything that you adore, anything that you put on a pedestal, anything that is above everything. Have you made your own self your God? Your accomplishments, your failures, the people in your life, your jobs, your possessions, the things that you have, your clothes, your jewelry, your hair. Y'all, your hair. Literally, we don't even realize, I'm about to get real on here. We don't even realize how spiritually bound we are to things. Who is your God? What is your God? This is not a message to make you feel good. This is a message to confront. Listen, God the Lord, we're talking about the creator of the universe. He did not come to bring peace. He did not come to make people comfortable and to make people sit there and be like, oh, I'm so comfortable. This is so nice. No, he came to confront. And sometimes that confrontation is like a literal sword. It's like a literal, like, you're not ready for it. Haven't you noticed that, like, sometimes when people start really speaking up and like really truly sharing the gospel, they start being like shut down, and they start being people start saying, oh, like, stop speaking, like you're being too much, because the word of God is confrontational. It confronts you. It confronts your demons, bro. So many of us are walking around being held down by literal demons. And by demons, I mean, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but do you really think that depression, you really think that anxiety, you really think that fear, low self-esteem, jealousy, envy, comparison, lust, gluttony, the obsession for like control, the obsession with power, you really think that those are like good things to have? Anything that exalts itself and lifts itself up higher than God in your life is literally like oppressing you, and you don't even realize it. The thing is that you don't realize that you're living in darkness and that you're living bound by something until God frees you from that thing. And then you start seeing the world for what it really is. And I'm going to be honest with you, lots of people are going to be uncomfortable with you finding your identity and with you realizing who you are and what you came here to do. So many people are going to be uncomfortable with that because lots of people aren't willing to do the work. They're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to sacrifice their own pleasures and their own desires in order to truly seek God. But let me tell you something. It is worth all of the rejection. It is worth all of the persecution. It is worth the world going against you in order to know the truth. Let me tell you something. It is worth absolutely everything, because He promises that if you give your life to Him, He is going to give you so much more than you can even imagine. So much more. Like, I'm literally talking about the God of the universe here. I feel so uncomfortable right now because I feel like people are watching me. There's actually like a couple people like staring at me right now. But it's all good. I had to get this message out because I'm telling you, like, I was fighting so hard this entire week. I was fighting so hard, just like against myself, against like my own anxieties and my fears. I've been wanting to be open and share what God's putting on my heart and what He has done with my life, what He has done in the inside. Like, bro, He has transformed me. He has freed me. He has done so many things. And I've been wanting to share, but I've also been paralyzed by anxiety and fear about speaking up because of the fear of literal persecution, the fear of attack, the fear of, sometimes it's an internal persecution. Sometimes it's just nobody's actually attacking you and commenting or saying anything, but in your head you're like, oh, they're like talking about me, you know? So you just have to literally, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. You literally just have to continue going, continue being bold, continue speaking up. And if you haven't opened your mouth and spoken up, if you haven't been bold in your faith, if you haven't been bold in your beliefs, I want you guys to know that it doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter who's against you. It doesn't matter if you don't have all of the support. The thing is that, I'm gonna be real with you guys. So many people that you see that are successful, that are very, very successful by like the eyes of other people, you don't know what they had to do to get there. And another thing is that you never know like what people had to do to get there. And I'm not saying that obviously like success isn't like It doesn't mean that every single person has, like, you know, done dark shit, like dark stuff in order to get to a high level. That's not what I'm saying. But because only God knows the heart, right? And only God knows what they had to do. Only God knows. You only see the blessings and you only see the favor and you only see when they're in the high position, but you don't know what they had to go through, right, in order to get there. But the point of it is that let's learn to literally just be more open about our faith. Let's learn to be bolder and to speak up more and to simply do not be afraid to say the name Jesus. Don't be afraid, because I know that I've been afraid for a very, very long time to say it. And for a long time, I kind of just stood quiet and I didn't say anything. And I was just like, oh, I'm not going to talk about him because I don't want to offend people. But it's like, if I simply say God and I don't say Jesus, it's like, what God am I talking about? There's a lot of gods out here. If you practice occultism, the devil is a god in the occult. In esotericism, the devil is literally a god that is worshipped. So it's like, I don't want to just say God anymore. Like, I want to talk about who am I talking about? You know what I mean? Because so many people are afraid of being politically incorrect when it comes to growing their business, or it comes to whatever it is that you're doing. Like, it could be your business, it could be your job. So many people kind of just hold their voice back because they don't want to offend people. So I encourage you guys that if you watch this far, be bold. Do not be afraid. Do not let the enemy muzzle your voice anymore. When I say muzzle your voice, it's literally like, you know what they do with dogs? That they put like a muzzle on their mouth. That way they don't bite people. That's literally what the enemy does spiritually with people. He will literally choke you out. That way you don't use your voice. Because you're afraid of being too much. Because you're afraid of stepping out. Because you're literally, you know what? You're literally afraid of the power that you have. You're afraid that when you start speaking up and walking into your gifts, everybody is going to be shook. But guess what? You have to believe that the one who is walking with you is going to be your literal security guard. So you have nothing to fear. Because greater is he who lives inside of you than the one that is in the world. So you have to believe that no matter what anybody thinks, nobody has walked in your shoes. Nobody knows what you have been through. Nobody knows that. So it's like, start speaking up. Start being bold. Declare who you are. Listen, do not care what anybody else says. Bro, nobody has walked your shoes. There's one thing that I realized. I'm like, how is it that I'm going to care about what other people think about me when I start sharing what God has done in my life? When they have not walked one day in my shoes. Like, one day, bro. They have not experienced one thing that I've experienced. So it's like, how dare I care what other people think about me? Like, how could, like, it's almost like, how can, do you know what I've experienced? Like, it's just crazy the way we hold other people's opinions so high that we never step into our gifts. We never step into what it is we truly want to do because we're so terrified of what other people are going to think. So we conform ourselves and we shift who we are and we make ourselves smaller in order for other people to like us and feel comfortable around us. We don't want to intimidate other people. Because when you start stepping into your power, you intimidate people. Because it's not you, it's literally God working through you. And God is scary, right? To lots of people who don't know him, God is really scary. So anyways, speak up, be bold, step into your gifts. And 2022 is a year of literally stepping out in faith. And it doesn't mean fear is going to go away, but you have to work through it. You have to fight it. Literally, the only way that you fight fear is with faith. That is the biggest weapon that you have. So you have to believe that what's on the other side is much greater than your fear. So keep on going, all right? Peace out. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I'm going to leave you guys with this view.